by reason and calm judgment, the qualities specially appertaining to a leader. Tacitus. I can't let this 40th anniversary year of Transformers go by without speaking of the greatest leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime. Even if you know nothing about Transformers, you know of Optimus Prime. Between his truck alternate mode and iconic red and blue color scheme, he leaves an impression. But if you know more about Transformers, you'll know those are not the only things that stand out about him. He's also known for his heroic leadership. So why is Optimus such a great leader? Well, today we're going to find out. Without further ado, let's get into it. My name is Paul, and this is Plot Spot. Welcome to Plot Spot, the place where we analyze stories and try to determine what makes them succeed or fail. Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots and protector of freedom. As Bob Budiansky wrote in his original profile for Prime, both in power and intelligence, he has no equal. He has the personality of an Abraham Lincoln. He can be immensely kind, and his compassion extends to all that lives, including the creatures of Earth. Yet he will battle unceasingly to protect the weak and defend what he believes in. To accomplish this, Optimus knows that the Decepticons must be defeated for all time. I think that sums up Optimus pretty nicely. Introduced in 1984 in the Marvel Comics, an original cartoon, he quickly captivated kids with his father-like persona and fearless attitude. It felt like there was no threat he could not face, and no danger that could kill him. Until, of course, it did. 1986 marked the release of The Transformers the movie in theaters, and contained the shocking death of Optimus Prime, falling in battle to his arch-nemesis, Megatron. We could talk about Hot Rod's mistake in that scene or the wisdom of killing off Optimus in such a way, but that's not what this video is about. This video is a celebration, not a critique. So let's focus on the positives of Prime, and why he is a true leader, someone to be emulated. So what are the core traits of Optimus Prime? I would say they can be boiled down to three components: his kindness, his strength, and his ideals. Let's unpack each of those, and we can start with that very scene that scarred so many 80s children.
Out of the way, Hot Rod!
Even when he has the perfect opportunity to destroy Megatron, Optimus holds his fire, not wanting to hurt Hot Rod. This is a theme seen across the incarnations of Optimus. We all know Megatron would not hesitate to kill Prime if one of his own soldiers stood in the way. But Optimus does not have that ruthlessness in him. It's not in his character. You usually get the feeling that being a warrior does not come naturally to him. It's something he's forced to do by the circumstances around him. As Shakespeare wrote in Twelfth Night, some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Optimus certainly falls into that last category. To me, the times when he is playing basketball or learning about some aspect of human culture are when he is most at home. Is he comfortable on the battlefield? Sure, but that's only due to necessity and spending millennia in that arena. Nor is Optimus into the trappings of leadership. He exercises his authority to maintain discipline among his troops, but he does not get pleasure from being a leader. He does not have a high opinion of himself like many Decepticons and even some Autobots do.
But Prime, I'm just a soldier. I'm not worthy. Nor was I. I am but a soldier, Megatron. And you are a prisoner of your own twisted delusions.
His concern for his friends is paramount in his mind because, in the end, that's all he really has left. In most continuities, Cybertron is destroyed. Without a home, the only thing Optimus is still fighting for is his fellow Autobots. They're his family.
Optimus, when we spoke earlier, what could be greater than an army?
A human concept. One I have learned since coming to Earth. Family.
Optimus always tries to be fair to his men, but he is also firm in laying out discipline. But that, too, is part of his kindness, just like a good father would do. His love for his comrades is so great, it has even been known to snap him out of brainwashing on occasion. Optimus's compassion extends to the Autobots' allies as well, namely the humans. Optimus's love for humans is well attested through fiction. From Spike to Rad, Carlos and Alexis, to Sari, to Jack, Miko, and Raph. And yes, even Kicker. Optimus's mantra is freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Humans, being sentient, well, besides myself, have the right to be free in Prime's optic sensors. He doesn't look down on them due to their small size, fragile frames, or lack of special abilities. In fact, I would argue he usually looks up to them. He is inspired by their bravery and ingenuity. While most Autobots like the humans, or at least tolerate them, certainly there are more than a few who view them as inferiors. But Optimus doesn't. He sees humanity as true equals with Cybertronians. Without his kindness and generosity, Optimus would not be as memorable as he is. To quote Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, "You can easily judge the character of a man by how he treats those who can do nothing for him." This brings us to the next point I want to address: Prime's strength. Optimus may not relish fighting, but he is also not afraid to. He knows you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, or perhaps a few Decepticon skulls. There's a quote from Peter Cullen about his audition for the role of Optimus Prime in 1984. He recounts the story of how he told his brother, Larry, that he was going out to audition for a truck who was also a hero. Larry, who served in Vietnam, gave this advice to Peter on heroism.
Well, if you're going to be a hero, Peter, be a real hero. Don't be one of those pretend Hollywood heroes, always yelling and acting tough and, be a real hero. His voice got very low and there was a seriousness in him, and the way he talked, there was a gentle and a smoothness to it. And he said, if you're going to be a hero, Peter, remember, be strong enough to be gentle.
Not only does this sum up the character of Optimus Prime, it shows what a true leader should be. We've always heard the saying that nice guys finish last, and really, that is true. Because there's a difference between being nice and being good. There's a difference between being nice and being kind. Niceness is just ineffectual weakness, but that's not what goodness and kindness are. Villainous characters will often use that quote to try to equate the three.
Haven't you figured it out, SpongeBob? Nice guys finish last.
But they are not the same. Being kind and good takes strength. As Master Yoda said, the dark side is quicker, easier, more seductive. Is it easier to step on people's necks and claw your way to the top? Or take the time and effort to build relationships that could be mutually beneficial? We all know the answer. My karate teacher shared a short story with me called The Peaceful Warrior. It goes, a young apprentice asked his teacher why, if he was striving to be inwardly calm and at peace, he needed to learn the ways of a warrior. Would it not be more tranquil and serene to be a gardener and tend the plants? He asked. Tending the garden, the master replied, is a relaxing pastime, but it does not prepare one for the inevitable battles of life. It is easy to be calm in a serene setting. To be calm and serene when under attack is much more difficult. Therefore, I tell you that it is far better to be a warrior tending his garden rather than a gardener at war. And if you prefer a Near Eastern form of wisdom, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 and 8. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace. What does this all mean? It means that Megatron and various 20th century dictators will attempt to say that goodness is weakness, that caring for others is weakness. But goodness is true strength. If you are a good and kind person, that means you have the ability to hurt other people, perhaps in devastating ways, but choose not to, because you don't have to stoop to such tactics. In order to be truly good, you have to be capable of violence, because sometimes that's what the situation calls for. Whether you're facing down a home invader at 2 a.m. with your kids sleeping upstairs, or a madman looking to conquer the world. Optimus absolutely has the strength to kill his opponents, but is governed by his self-control. Think of Megatron, or even the Megatrons you have met in your own lives. They have no or little self-control. They let their emotions dominate them and control their actions. Tell me, which one is stronger? However, even the great Optimus Prime has his limits. When his friends are hurt, he can lose his cool.
Hotshot! My men! Megatron, you will pay!
I'm going to take back Scourge's key and then take off his head. They slaughtered Ratchet. I'm gonna tear them apart. We're not your technology. They were my friends.
On the note of Age of Extinction, we see that even Optimus's compassion for humanity can run out when push comes to shove. I like the concept, but don't think it was executed particularly well in that film. Again, not going into the negatives here, I'll save that for my analysis of that film. But Optimus's strength is reined in by the next part I want to discuss, his ideals. His adherence to truth, justice, and the American way. Whoops, that's a different blue and red hero. This is the thing that lies at the foundation of Prime's character. Without it, everything collapses like a house of cards. Optimus is not a leader who hides away, giving orders from his fortress. He is on the front line with his troops, leading them into battle and willing to take the same risks they do. This scene is technically from a different character, Optimus Primal, but they're functionally the same character, so I think it's safe to appropriate a quote from him and apply it to Prime.
I will not give an order I would not be willing to do myself. But I was capable of giving you better cover fire. You were not.
I think you can see that thought process across the Primes. I've yet to see an incarnation of Optimus give a cowardly order while he shirks his duty. I'm sure many people have worked for bosses that give them a task they don't want to do themselves. Now, a leader does have to delegate, and sometimes that means you may end up doing a task you don't like, whether that's scrubbing a toilet or running out into the line of fire to help your downed teammate. But you can always smell from a mile away when the leader is just pushing off the unwanted work so that he or she can do easier tasks. Optimus never does this. He's always willing to take on the most dangerous of jobs to protect his team. If he adopted the practices of the Decepticons, he could probably have beaten them a long time ago, but instead, he restrains his capabilities to cause the least destruction necessary. Megatron is the other side of the coin from Prime. They are similar in that they are both competent and not afraid to fight in battle, but Megatron does not care for his troops. If he has to sacrifice his men to achieve his goal, he does not hesitate. Prime, on the other hand, while I'm sure he's willing to put his troops in harm's way, they are fighting a war after all, he does not relish it. He does not send his team on reckless missions, and this has earned Optimus the respect of his Autobots. They are always willing to follow him into battle, to risk their very lives for the cause they all believe in. The Decepticons only follow Megatron out of fear. To quote another one of my favorite franchises,
I lead only those that choose to follow. That's the difference between being a leader and a tyrant like you.
And you see this in real life. Compare the tyrants of the 20th century. Take your pick. Stalin, Mao, Mussolini, Kim, Pot, Castro, Hitler. Were these men followed for ideological reasons? Some people certainly did, although I argue that, like the Decepticons, a lot of their ardent followers were just psychopaths, looking for an outlet for their sadistic tendencies. But no, most fell in line due to fear. It was said that the bravest man in the Soviet army was a coward. They did not respect their leaders. They feared them. Megatron's motto is peace through tyranny. When I was a kid, I never understood it. I thought it was a cartoonish, villainous oxymoron, like blowing up the world so you can rule it or something equally nonsensical. But as I got older, I realized that line makes a lot more sense than I thought it did. Dictators like Hitler and Mussolini did not want perpetual war. They were certainly not afraid of going to war to get what they wanted, but a never-ending war would not be productive to the kinds of societies they were trying to create.
If they are not all destroyed, it will be civil war without end.
Once more, the Sith will rule the galaxy.
And we shall have peace.
You can create a kind of peace under tyrannical rule. I argue that it's a fragile peace that won't last, and one built on immorality, but you can still have one. You come down with that iron fist hard and often enough, people will get in line and not question authority. And if you judge peace by how much open conflict you see, then there you go. Dictatorships are peaceful. But that's not enough for me. And it's not for Prime either. Going back to what I said earlier, Optimus believes that freedom is every sentient being's birthright. That means that just because you aren't being slaughtered doesn't mean you're free.
This isn't freedom. This is fear.
Indeed, and it's how a large chunk of the human population have lived through history. It still does today. Dictators thrive on the fear they breed. Optimus's Autobots will follow Prime to the ends of the universe, no matter the cost.
You just want to die for the guy. That's leadership. Or brainwashing or something.
No. That's Optimus Prime.
Some people might say that you can't use Optimus as a role model because he is a warrior, especially in some of the more recent series where he will kill enemies. And sure, I have some questions about some specific moments, but overall, Optimus's killings are justified. You don't win a war by playing patty cake with the other side. You do it by killing the other side. That takes a toll on you. It wears down your soul. But you do it so that others don't have to, so that others may live in peace. That's why Optimus fights.
We cannot let the humans pay for our mistakes.
Let's zoom in on one particular rendition of Optimus Prime to drive this point home. His portrayal in the book Exodus, part of the very convoluted Aligned continuity. In that, Optimus begins his life as a humble data clerk named Orion Pax, someone who I would say was actually weaker than Megatron at the start of the story. Orion hears the charismatic speeches of Megatron, inspired by his call for freedom. Megatron is a powerful gladiator and earns a massive following of like-minded individuals, and Orion becomes his friend. But Megatron is motivated by ambition and a hunger for power. When Orion Pax becomes Optimus Prime, he is thrown into leading the Autobots against the Decepticons. Once he learns how to fight and lead, Optimus becomes stronger than Megatron, because now he is no longer the ineffectual weakling from before, but he is also guided by his kindness and ideals. A weak man knows the value of strength. This is why Optimus is stronger than Megatron.
Your defeat here was foreseen by the ancients. What was it they wrote? The weak shall perish?
Do not believe everything you read.
You know, the United States is a unique country among the other nations of the world. Most nations have centuries and centuries, if not millennia, of history to pull from. The US only has about 250, another 150 years if you go back to when it was first colonized. Either way, not very long. America doesn't have a rich mythology, so we make some substitutions. We are fairly well versed in other countries' myths, whether they be Greek, Roman, English, Mesopotamian, or even Chinese or Japanese, not to mention Native American. We pull from biblical texts, which have helped lay the groundwork for our society. We also hold up historical figures like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Daniel Boone, or the Founding Fathers, and fictional folk heroes like Paul Bunyan and Pecos Bill. But the figures like Hercules, Odysseus, or Arthur, we don't have anything like that. Except, of course, that we do, don't we? We're writing those myths right now. Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Star Wars, The Wizard of Oz, Back to the Future, and many more, including Transformers. These fictional stories are part of the underpinning of our society, and not just American society. They have had an amazing influence on cultures all over the world. Optimus Prime is firmly within that American canon of mythological heroes that shape our lives. These stories are so important to us, which is why we don't like to see them disrespected. There is room for experimentation and variance, but there are guardrails. How do you find those guardrails? I don't know. I don't think there is a scientific way to go about it. Sometimes you're going to go too far. But I would say the first step you must always take is to approach the source material respectfully. These heroes embody something primal, something that I don't think the writers, or us as an audience, are fully aware of, yet we instinctively know it's there. So, that's why Prime matters, and why his legacy must live on. Because Optimus Prime is a hero. Optimus Prime is a leader.
You never bend, you never break. You seem to know just what it takes. You're a fighter. It's in the blood, it's in the will, it's in the mighty hands of steel. When you're standing your ground, and you never get hit when your back's to the wall. Gonna fight to the end, and you're taking it all. You got the touch, you got the power. When all hell's breaking loose, you'll be right in the eye of the storm.
Phew! That was a lot of work. This is by far the most tedious video I've made yet, due to the multitude of clips to track down, in addition to making sure I got my argumentation and thoughts in order. Thank you so much for watching this celebration of a great character. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, consider taking a look at my analysis of the 2007 Transformers film. It's not all sunshine and roses over there, but it's also not doom and gloom. Thoughtful discussion goes on there, or at least the closest I can manage to it. If you didn't enjoy this video, leave a comment and let me know why. I can take it. I want to grow as a writer, and the only way I can do that is through constructive criticism. Other than that, that's all for the agenda today. Get out of here and become a leader. Go out and find more stories to experience. Then I'll meet you back here where we will examine another one. Until next time, I've been Paul, and this has been Plot Spot.